This principle applies to everything: work, relationships, goals, even your inner life. Marcus Aurelius said, "Trying to be everything to everyone leaves you being yourself." Focus means choosing your values over validation. Marcus Aurelius said, "Your priorities over popularity." It means subtlety in the shorter term so you can be unshakable in the long term. Aurelius said, "Time is a finite resource. No matter how driven you are, how motivated, you only have so much of it." Marcus Aurelius said, "Every hour you spend is a trade. You're trading your fourth outcome, an experience, a result." Marcus Aurelius said, "If you don't decide what's worth that trade, the world will decide for you, and the world's demands are endless. But when you choose where to focus your time, you reclaim ownership." Marcus Aurelius said, "You become the architect of your days instead of everyone else's urgency." Marcus Aurelius said, "You also start to understand that not all sometimes the most powerful work happens in silence." Marcus are behind the scenes, in the hours no one sees, that one claps for. Yet, that kind of focus creates strength. Marcus Aurelius said, "It builds depth. It doesn't require applause, be applausion. It's building something real." Marcus Aurelius said, "The choosing your focus requires constant relibration to get pulled into the current of noise, notifications, markers, and distractions. It takes daily awareness to stay earned with your priorities." Marcus Aurelius said, "But that awareness is what builds a life that you truly are, not just what the world expects from you." Marcus, you can't master your craft, grow in your relationships, pursue your peace, or sharpen your mind if your attention is always divided. Marcus Aurelius said, "The ones who create lasting impact in the world are not everything. They are the ones who do a few things with excellence." Marcus Aurelius said, "They protect their time with discipline. They show up fully where it counts, and they let the rest go." Focus is not a limitation, it's a liberation. It frees you from the pressure to be everywhere, do everything, and please everyone. Marcus Aurelius, it allows you to move with clarity, confidence, power, and in a world full of noise and scattered energy. Marcus, that kind of focus stands out. It builds legacious do lists. It creates men who are grounded, not just busy. Marcus Aurelius said, "Men who remembered not for being everywhere, but for being exactly where they were needed." Marcus Aurelius said, "Doing exactly what they were called to do." Emotional denodrama allows for inner clarity and strength. Marcus Aurelius said, "In a world where people are quick to react, where immediate conflict is often entertainment." Marcus Aurelius said, "Choosing to detach is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's preserve your peace rather than prove your point." Marcus Aurelius said, "It's the decision to rise above instead of being dragged into the noise." And more than anything, Marcus Aurelius said, "It's the discipline to control yourself rather than be by the chaos around you. Drama feeds on reaction." Marcus Aurelius said, "It thrives when you give it attention, when you own to it, when you let it live rent-free in your mind." Oh, people who are consumed by drama often don't realize how much their energy it steals. Their focus is scattered. Marcus Aurelius said, "Their thoughts clouded, their actions reactive, their actional motion, but rarely in control." Marcus Aurelius said, "Every disagreement becomes a battle, every minor income crisis." And slowly, without realizing it, Marcus Aurelius said, they become addicted to the rush of conflict, mistaking your meaning for passion, for life. Marcus Aurelius said, "But emotional detachment changes the game. It's the calm in the storm." Marcus Aurelius said, "It's the quiet refusal to engage in battles that lead growth." When you detach, you create space. Space to think. Marcus Aurelius said, "To breathe, to see clearly what's really going on beneath the surface." You stop taking everything personally. Marcus Aurelius said, "You stop needing to respond to every insult, every opinion, every shift in someone else's mood." Marcus Aurelius said, "You realize that not everything requires your angry, and most things aren't about you in the first place. Marcus Aurelius said, clarity is born in that space. When you notice people more clearly, their intentions, their wounds, Marcus Aurelius said, their patterns. You see situations for what they are, they make you feel in the heat of the moment. Marcus Aurelius said, emotional detachment isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about seeing to respond instead of react. Marcus Aurelius said, it's being able to feel deeply, but act deliberately. It takes seeing your emotions without becoming a slave to them. Marcus Aurelius, this strength is internal. It's quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. Marcus Aurelius said, it shows up in your ability to walk away from what's without. It shows up when someone tries to provoke you. Marcus Aurelius said, and you simply don't take the bait. It shows up fail, and you stay grounded. Not because you don't care, Aurelius said, but because you care more about your peace than your pride. Detachment also creates emotional freedom. Martyr, you stop depending on other people's behavior to determine your mood. Marcus Aurelius said, you stop outsourcing your happiness to your control. You become self-contained, emotionally sovereign. Marcus Aurelius said, you know who you are, what you stand for, and so you don't have to constantly defend or explain yourself. Marcus Aurelius said that kind of security can't be shaken by gossip, peonies, or petty provocations. Marcus Aurelius said, it doesn't mean you never get angry or hurt. It means emotions don't run your life. When you choose to detach from drama, you make room for discipline. You direct your focus on your work, your growth, your goals. Marcus Aurelius said, you replace emotional chaos with purpose. You start in measuring in things that compound, building skills. Marcus Aurelius said, deepening relationships that matter, developing your character. You start seeing how little most noise actually matters. Marcus Aurelius said, how much of what once consumed you now barely re-redor. There's a certain power in not flinching, in not being pulled into every emotional tug of war, in being able to say, Marcus Aurelius said, that's not mine to carry, and walk away without Gary. That power comes from self-respect, from emotional maturity, and from understanding that peace is more valuable than proving a point. Marcus Aurelius said, some things can't be won by fighting harder. They're won by letting go faster. Marcus Aurelius said, you don't have to attend every argument you're into. You don't act every time someone tries to trigger you. Marcus Aurelius said, you don't have to match other people's energy, especially when it's low. Your strength is in your restraint. Marcus Aurelius said, and your clarity is in your composure, and your refusal to let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. In the end, emotional detachment isn't about disconnecting from life. Marcus Aurelius said, it's about connecting more deeply with the parts of life that truly matter. It's about rising above, not shrinking back. Marcus Aurelius, it's choosing to be unshaken in a world that constantly tries to shake you. Marcus Aurelius said, and that's where true power begins, not in how loud you respond, but in how quietly you can stand. True presence is selective. It is earned, not handed out freely. In a world that encourages constant availability and rewards oversharing, Marcus Aurelius said, the ability to be intentional with your presence becomes a mark of inner strength and discernment. Marcus Aurelius said, there's a quiet power in choosing when, where, and with whom you fully show up. It's not about hiding or withholding. It's about understanding that your energy, attention, marker time are valuable, and not everyone or everything has access to them. Marcus Aurelius said, being truly present means being all in, not just physically there, but mentally somewhere else. Marcus Aurelius said, but that kind of presence takes something from you. It takes energy, awareness, and care. Marcus Aurelius said, that's why it shouldn't be given out carelessly. When you give your full presence to people or situations that don't value it, you end up depleted. Marcus Aurelius said, you dilute the impact of your presence by spreading ocrasangs that don't feed your spirit or align with your values. Marcus Aurelius said, "To be selective with your presence is to recognize your worth. It's knowing that showing up fully is a gift." Marcus Aurelius said, "And gifts should be given with thought, not out of obligation or fear of missing out." Marcus Aurelius said, "Just because someone demands your time doesn't mean they've earned your attention." Marcus Aurelius said, "Just because an opportunity looks good on this mean it deserves your presence." Selectiveness isn't selfish, it's strategic. Marcus Aurelius said, "It's what allows you to show up fully in the moment of being drained by the ones that don't." Marcus Aurelius said, "There's an illusion in modern life that Untouchable, that if you're not always present, always active, always engaging, then you're somehow falling behind. But the truth is," Marcus Aurelius said, "the most impactful people aren't those who are always around. They're the ones whose presence carries weight." Marcus Aurelius said, "And that weight comes from intention. It comes from being driven by purpose instead of pressure." Marcus Aurelius said, "And from not giving yourself away to people or places and earned your respect." Selective presence also creates mystery. When not instantly available, people begin to notice when you are. Your words land heavier. Your actions stand out more. Marcus Aurelius said, "Your energy feels more meaningful because it's not superly entitled to." Scarcity creates value. Marcus Aurelius said, "And when your presence is scarce, but meaningful, it commands attention without demanding it." Marcus Aurelius said, "You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have constantly show up to be remembered." Marcus Aurelius said, "Being everywhere means being nowhere fully. True presence saying no more often than you say yes." Marcus Aurelius said, "It means walking away from surface-level conversations. You can have deeper ones. It means not showing up to every event." Marcus Aurelius said, "Every argument, every request, so that when you are because you've chosen to, not because you couldn't say no." That kind of presence feels different. It's root-footed, doesn't mean isolating yourself or becoming cold. Marcus Aurelius said, "It means cultivating a relationship with your to say, I don't need to be everywhere." Marcus Aurelius said, "I just need to be exactly where I'm supposed to be." That's the kind of presence that comes from alignment. Marcus Aurelius said, "You're not just reacting to life. You're with clarity. You're showing up where your values, your goals," Marcus Aurelius said, "and your energy are in sync. When you're selective, you also begin to attract different energy. People start to respect your time more. You stop attracting distraction and superficiality. Instead, you start aligning with depth, with calm, with purpose." Marcus Aurelius said, "The right people and opportunities don't demand your faith. They recognize the weight of your presence when it's given." Marcus Aurelius said, "And they meet it with appreciation, not expectation if about being physically in the room." Marcus Aurelius said, "It's about being energetically, emotionally, and mental level of presence requires reserves." Marcus Aurelius said, "You can't give your best self to everyone and everything, so you protect your peace. You give yourself space." Marcus Aurelius said, "You say no without guilt, and you say yes with commitment. That's how you build integrity." Marcus Aurelius said, "That's how you build trust in yourself and in everywhere. But by being fully there when it counts." Marcus Aurelius said, "To live this way is to reclaim your power from the noise. It's to stop forming and start connecting. And in doing so," Marcus Aurelius said, "you begin to live not as someone constantly reacting the world, but as someone moving through it with intention." Marcus Aurelius said, "That's what makes your presence powerful, not its frequency, but its purpose." So in the end, Marcus Aurelius said, "Let your presence be a reflection of your standards, not your everyability. Don't be everywhere. Be where it counts. Don't be constantly seen. Be deeply felt. Move with intention, speak with meaning." Marcus Aurelius said, "And show up only when your presence serves a cue to the news." because when your presence is rare, it becomes respected, and when it's intentional, it becomes unforgettable. Marcus Aurelius said, "In a world addicted to attention, silence is strength. Where everyone is shooting to be seen." Marcus Aurelius said, "The one who remains still commands the room. Them who pronounce power. Now, absence speaks louder." Marcus Aurelius said, "Being unavailable doesn't mean you're avoiding life. It means where to place your time, energy, and emotion." Marcus Aurelius said, "It means you've stopped chasing and started building." Unavailable to drama. Marcus Aurelius said, "Unavailable to anything that doesn't align with your purpose. Let others scroll endlessly. Seek constant validation." Marcus Aurelius said, "And throw their energy at every distraction. You sit in the quiet. You operate in discipline." Marcus Aurelius said, "You move in silence and let your results speak, when over your time is control over your life." Marcus Aurelius said, "Not every phone call deserves an answer, not every opportunity, and not every fight is worth the war." Aurelius said, "Silence and restraint are forms of power in an overly loud world." Marcus Aurelius said, "In a time where noise is constant and every thought, opinion, and moment of their life," Marcus Aurelius said, "choosing silence becomes an act of rebellion, a quiet that speaks volumes without a word." Restraint, similarly, Marcus Aurelius said, is a type of inner discipline that shows not only what a person can do, but what they choose not to do. Together, Marcus Aurelius said, "Silence and restraint create a foundation of strangely rare, and because of that rarity, increasingly powerful." Marcus Aurelius said, "The loudness of the modern world isn't just external, digital mental. It's a world of constant alerts." Marcus Aurelius said, "Opinions shouted over one another, endless conjured urgency. In this climate, silence is often mistaken for weakness, for disses being left behind." Marcus Aurelius said, "But that's a misunderstanding rooted in insecure. Silence is an active stance. It's not ignorance." Marcus Aurelius said, "It's not apathy, it's clarity. It's the choice not speak just to fill a gap, to not react just to feel involved." Marcus Aurelius said, "To not validate something with your attention and lose its worry of it. To be silent when the world demands noises is to restore your power. It's knowing that just because you can say something does mean you should." Marcus Aurelius said that just because the world wants your immediate reaction is easy. Restraint takes strength. Marcus Aurelius said, "The one who remains quiet while others argue is one who lays the debate often." Marcus Aurelius said, "He's the one who has already made up his mind and need to prove anything. The louder someone is," Marcus Aurelius said, "the more desperate they are to be heard. The more silent someone is, the more grounded they often are in their own truth." Marcus Aurelius said, "Restraint is knowing your own potential and when to reveal it. It's walking away from arguments that don't matter." Marcus Aurelius said, "It's not chasing attention, not feeding every impulse, not needing to respond to everything that pulls at your emotions." Marcus Aurelius' patience. Its presence, its power, when you restrain yourself. Marcus Aurelius said, "You're not suppressing your strength. Your mass commands more respect than chaos." Marcus Aurelius said, "In today's world, people are addicted to being sure. Every sure shout into the void is a requesting look at me." Marcus Aurelius said, "Validate me, hear me, but the person who moves is seen constantly because he's not performing." Marcus Aurelius said, "He's watching, he's choosing. The quick man is dangerous, not because he's aggressive," Marcus Aurelius said, "but because he's deliberate. Because he doesn't out emotion, he acts with precision." Marcus Aurelius said, "The power of silence is that it makes people wonder. It creates scarcity, and what is scarce becomes valuable." Marcus Aurelius said, "A person who is constantly available, constantly defending themselves, performing, proving, diminishes themselves. But the one who holds who doesn't overextend. Marcus Aurelius said, who doesn't leak energy on everything that comes re-steered, if not a little feared. His energy is preserved. His attention is earned, not expected. In relationships can be clarity. In conflict, it can be control. In progress, Marcus can be focus. It's hard to manipulate someone who does react. Marcus Aurelius said, it's hard to pull someone into drama who isn't emotionally available to it. Marcus Aurelius said, the restrained man does not deny that he has emotions or opinions. You simply governs them. Marcus Aurelius said, and in a world where people live in emotional chaos, that makes him rare. When you choose silence, Marcus Aurelius said, you tune out the static and begin to hear what really matters. Your own thoughts, your own direction, your own instincts. Aurelius said, you begin to see how much of the noise is just distraction disguised as urgency. Marcus Aurelius said, you begin to notice that most of what people say is meant to provoke a reaction, not create understanding. Marcus Aurelius said that most of what's loud is hollow. You begin to see that everything needs a response. Marcus Aurelius said, this is not about disengaging from life. It's about engaging with it on your terms. Marcus Aurelius said, it's about choosing to move in ways that don't require a applauses. You stop performing and start living. Marcus Aurelius said, you stop proving and start becoming. The world we key. You found something louder, your inner stillness. Marcus Aurelius said, and in that stillness, you hold the kind of power need to raise its voice to be felt. Being unavailable is a conscious, intentional act of self-discipline. It is not about arrogance, disinterest, Marcus Aurelius said, or indifference. It's about choosing where your energy goes, in a world that constantly demands attention. Aurelius said, being unavailable becomes a form of strength. It is the refuel to let the outside world dictate your focus. Time, Marcus Aurelius said, and emotional space. It is the choice to operate with precision instead of allowing your life to be shaped by endless distractions, obligations and expectations. Marcus Aurelius said, the idea that we must be constantly accessibly that values visibility over value. Marcus Aurelius said, people are pressured to respond instantly, to be times, to attend every event, reply to every message. Marcus Aurelius said, and engage with every demand. But just because for your attention doesn't mean it deserves it. Marcus Aurelius said, just because someone expects a reaction doesn't you're obligated to give one. Marcus Aurelius said, being unavailable is about drawing a line between and what's important, between what calls for you and what's truly worth your presence. Marcus Aurelius said, discipline is not only about action, it's also discipline of being unavailable is the discipline of saying no. Marcus Aurelius said, saying no to endless notifications, pointless shallow interactions, and energy-draining environments. Marcus Aurelius said, it's about not losing your focus by giving your isbifi and everyone. Marcus Aurelius said, it's about protecting your time like it's you is it is. You only get so much of it. Marcus Aurelius said, and every time you give a piece of it away, you've taken it from something that matters more. Marcus Aurelius said, being unavailable means you've stopped trying to be everyone. You no longer feel the need to explain your absence. Aurelius said, justify your silence or apologize for choosing your off. You realize not showing up is sometimes the most powerful decision. It sends a message, not necessarily to others, but your time, your peace, and your goals are sacred. Marcus Aurelius said that you don't just move based on obligation. It takes discipline to not be reactive. Marcus Aurelius said, it takes discipline to be quiet when everyone is loud, to be still when everything is rushing, and to focus when everything pulls for your attention. Marcus Aurelius said, being unavailable doesn't mean you're not present. It means you're present only where it matters. It's not avoidance. Marcus Aurelius said, it's alignment. You're not hiding from life. Your charts of life deserve your full self. In the discipline of unavailability, Marcus Aurelius said, "You begin to learn who truly respects your bonely voice, your presence, when it serves them." Marcus Aurelius said, "You begin to see who is drawn to your energy for genuine connection and who simply wants access to it for convenience." Marcus Aurelius said, "You start to filter your world, not out of ego, but out of clarity. You're not being cold, you're being conscious." Marcus Aurelius said, "Most people are exhausted not because they work too hard, but because they are too accessible." Marcus Aurelius said, "Their minds are constantly pulled in a dozen rectitude. No space to think, no room to breathe." Marcus Aurelius said, "Being unavailable gives you back that space. It creates a margin around your mind. It gives your thoughts the room to develop." Marcus Aurelius said, "Your emotions the room to settle, and your life the room to be hided purpose instead of pressure." Marcus Aurelius said, "The strongest men are not those who fight every battle. They are the ones who choose their battles carefully." Marcus Aurelius said, "Being unavailable is that choice. It's the reese of your presence, your energy." Marcus Aurelius said, "And your focus for the things that align with, about building walls. It's about building gates." Marcus Aurelius said, "And being very intentional about what you let through them." When you practice this kind of self-discipline, Marcus Aurelius said, you gain control, not just over your schedule, but over your emotional world. You no longer respond to every crisis. Marcus Aurelius said, you no longer chase every opportunity. You lean in and be let go, ignored, or simply left unanswered. And in that letting go, you reclaim your peace. Ultimately, being unavailable is about value. When you treat your time, Marcus said, and your presence and your attention as valuable, others begin to treat them that way too. Marcus Aurelius said, you stop giving yourself freely to people and place they have earned it. Marcus Aurelius said, you stop living in response to the world and start shaping your world on intentional choices. That's not indifference. Marcus Aurelius said, that's power, that's discipline, that's the quiet decision, live on your own terms. Marcus Aurelius said, choosing where to focus your time is more powerful than being everywhere. Marcus Aurelius said, in a culture that glorifies multitasking, ability focus has become a rare and underrated form of strength. Marcus Aurelius said, there's a difference between movement and progress, between presence and purpose. Marcus Aurelius said, just because you're everywhere doesn't mean you're Kiev. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're building. Marcus Aurelius said, true power lies not in how many places you can show up, but in inch and why you can show up in the places that matter. Aurelius said, when you try to be everywhere you end up stretched then. Your presence becomes diluted, your energy scattered. Marcus Aurelius said, and your impact weakened. You may touch everything, but there is a cost to being overly accessible, overly available, overly involved. That cost is depth, is clarity. When your attention is constantly divided, your outcomes suffer, relationships lack substuffer, goals remain unfinished. Marcus Aurelius said, and you live in a constant state of reaction direction. Focus in your time is a choice. It's a deliberate act of exclusion. It means acknowledging that not everything is equal. Marcus Aurelius said, and not every opportunity is worth the same amount of error. It requires the humility to admit that you can't do it all. Marcus Aurelius said, and the strength to act on that truth. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters. Marcus Aurelius said, and that often means letting go of good things, space for the essential ones. Marcus Aurelius said, people who are constantly chasing everything off fear of missing out, fear of falling behind. Marcus Aurelius said, fear of not being enough unless they're everywhere at once. But that fear leads to burnout, to exhaustion, to a life that looks full from the outside, but empty on the inside. Marcus Aurelius said, the person who learns to say no, who learns to running from opportunities, they're refining their direction. Marcus Aurelius said, they're building something with weight. Focus is separate from excellence. When you direct your time with intention. Marcus Aurelius said, you create momentum. you build mastery, you gain clarity. It's a defense between watering every plant in the garden once, Marcus Aurelius said, or deeply nourishing the few that you've chosen to grow. One leads scattered survival, the other leads to thriving.